Hello, everyone. It's me, Genevieve, and I'm very excited to be sharing with you today a story about infinite possibilities. Do you know what that word means? Infinite? It's a pretty big word, infinite. Do you have any guesses? So I'll tell you. Infinite means something that goes on forever and ever and ever. Something that is so huge that we can't even imagine it because it's just full of everything, right? Imagine, maybe this will help. Imagine standing on the beach and you can't see the end of the ocean, right? You can just look out and it's just a straight line and it looks like it goes on forever. That's the illusion of infinite, right? That it looks like it goes on and on and on and never stops. That's what infinite means. And when we say infinite possibilities, what we mean is that anything can happen, that God gives us a lot of abundance if we just watch and look. Today's story is about George Washington Carver, a very famous, Dr. George Washington Carver, a very famous man, and the way that he found infinite possibilities in every moment around him. The story is called God's Little Workshop. I'd like to read it to you now. Now, this story doesn't have any pictures, but what I'd like you to do is to use your infinite imagination as I read to try to picture what's going on. See if you can draw any pictures or images or dreams into your mind, because our imagination is absolutely infinite, and that's what the story is about. So, put on your listening ears. Ready? God's Little Workshop, a story about George Washington Carver. Have you ever eaten peanut butter? Or maybe a peanut butter sandwich? Or perhaps you like your peanuts sprinkled on top of ice cream or in a candy bar. Peanuts are really healthy, and there's lots of different ways that we can eat them. But now, can you imagine making laundry soap from peanuts? Or hand lotion? Or printer's ink? What about polish, shoe polish, or glue, or carpet? All made from a peanut plant? You may not be able to imagine making all those things or how they were made, but there's someone who actually did. He believed that there are infinite possibilities, even from something as simple and beautiful as a peanut. His name was George Washington Carver, and he was born a slave during a time when most Black people who were living in America were slaves. While he was a baby, the Civil War happened, and it ended and he was free. His parents were no longer living, but the people who cared for him were loving and kind, and they taught him a great deal, and he learned a lot from them. When George was little, he loved to learn, and he found great joy in learning, particularly about plants. Many hours were spent in the woods each day, studying all the growing things and listening in his heart to what they would teach him. George felt the Spirit was talking to him through the plants. When he grew up, he said, "I love to think of nature as unlimited broadcasting stations through which God speaks to us every day, every hour, and every moment of our lives, if only we will tune in and remain so." George's neighbors and friends thought that tending to flowers and plants was a foolish waste of time. So George made a secret garden where he could care for his little plants that he called pets. He would carefully dig up plants and move them to his garden if he thought they needed extra care. If he accidentally broke a root or a stem, he would cry as if he had hurt a good friend. When people realized the plants he cared for grew healthy and strong, they called George the plant doctor, and they would come from miles around to ask his help. He wanted to keep learning, but there were no schools nearby, so he left his home at 11 years old to go to school. Even though some people thought he should become an artist or a singer, George eventually became a plant scientist, which is called a botanist. He spent as much time outside in nature, though, as he did in his scientific laboratory and in the classroom. George understood that it was not enough to work hard. He had to be open to what could happen through his efforts. So, what about all those peanuts? Why do you you think George decided to learn so much about peanuts? Well, I'll tell you. The southern farmers had grown cotton plants for many years, but growing cotton year after year wasn't healthy for the dirt, for the soil. And so growing beans or peanuts gives that tired soil more nutrients and helps the soil stay healthy. So George knew that, and he encouraged the farmers to grow peanuts, and it worked really well. The soil became healthier, and there were lots of peanuts, an abundant crop. But when the farmers asked George, hey, George, what do we do with all these peanuts now that we have? George had to think about it. He knew that there were many possibilities, maybe infinite possibilities. If he were willing to work hard, 1 second, I'm getting a phone call. Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that. Now, where were we? Okay, so what to do with all those peanuts? So George knew that there were infinite possibilities if he were willing to work hard and let God's power flow through everything he did. He said, God is going to reveal to us things he never revealed before if we put our hands in his. So the peanut is an unusual plant. Peanuts are not like nuts that grow on trees. Peanuts are more like beans. And so the plants have these little yellow flowers that bloom and then bend over and grow back into the ground. And that's where the peanut grows, safe underground. George worked a long time in the laboratory to learn everything he could about the peanut plant. And he shared everything he learned with the farmers and other scientists, and he became famous for that work. Years later, after George had discovered over 300 uses for peanuts, a man asked him, Dr. Carver, how did you learn all these things? And George answered, from an old book. What book? The man asked. The Bible, George replied. The man was surprised and asked, does the Bible tell you about peanuts? No, sir, George explained, but it tells about the God who made the peanut. I asked him to show me what to do with the peanut, and he did. George never took credit for his accomplishments. He said, without God to draw aside the curtain, I would be helpless. George felt that it was divine power that flowed through him and through all creation. See, George was a great scientist who changed the world with his work, but he was humble. So he called his laboratory God's little workshop. So we know that peanut butter is made from the inside of the peanut. But what other parts of the plant do you think George Washington Carver used to make all those other things? I don't know. We may have to go look that up. That'd be an interesting thing to learn about, is what we can do with peanuts and all those things that George Washington Carver discovered. 300 uses for peanuts. Can you imagine? Oh, do you think it would be fun to be a plant scientist? What kind of things would you like to do if you were a plant scientist? What kind of plants would you study? I know sometimes I like to be out in nature just to watch things grow. And what do you think that he meant when he said God pulled aside the curtain? That's an interesting idea, right? If there's a curtain between us and everything that's possible, maybe we can ask God to pull that curtain aside and see these infinite possibilities that exist for us at any moment, always. Do you think, though, that that might be a scary thing to do? To see all the infinite possibilities? Have you ever been afraid of trying something new or being different because of what people will think? I wonder if right now, at this very moment, there are infinite possibilities for each of us to be creative and to have brilliant ideas. When we open up that curtain, we open up ourselves to God's brilliance, to God's wisdom. And it's always available to us. Okay, it was great to see y'all. Thanks for being with me for this time. And I hope everybody's healthy and happy out there. Sure do miss seeing you in person. Bye-bye now.